In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Actually, we go to page again 22 and 3 and review the whole thing that I told you in my previous lecture. Okay, on page 22, we talked about, in fact, a kind of universal that could be found in all languages. Could be found in all languages. And it's a kind of, let's say, universal according to Greenberg, not Chomsky, which says that, if there is a kind of relative clause in languages, this kind of relative clause could be of different nature. Subject relative clauses, object relative clauses, indirect object relative clauses, etc. But the accessibility came to say that if a language has got something like an object of comparison at the end of number 41, relative clauses, it also has all the previous ones that we have. This language has got genitive relative clauses as well, and object of preposition relative clauses as well, etc., etc., up to subject relative clauses. Okay, this is something like this. So it is a kind of universal. Well, if you actually go to page 23, we have the same thing repeated there, but you don't need to go to the details, because here the book talks about something which is sort of philosophical and methodological, which in fact goes beyond the capacity of this class. For us, if it is good for you to go to, in fact, page 23 and review the whole things at the bottom of the page 23. We talked about the universals, and we see everything on the box below. Universals consist of principles such as locality. Elements of language must be, in fact, in its local position. We are going to talk about this locality later on, especially on the next chapter. Well, Chomsky's universals do not have to occur in all languages. Yes, sometimes we say that a language does not have this kind of universal, okay? But if it does, it is like all other languages. Sometimes something is in fact missing in some languages, but generally what we say, it's about all languages, okay? And unlike Greenbergian universals could be in fact found in one language or other. Anyway, we don't in fact go through the details because it takes time for you, and we are going to talk about some other things. No language violates number 3, universal principles. The language simply may not use the principle in a particular context. This is something that I told you about universals. Sometimes languages may not use one universal. And the last one, and the last but not the least, is that universals are part of the innate structure of the human mind, and so they do not have to be learned. This is something important that I'm going to talk about it later on. So if they are not going to be learned, it is good for you to know that you are not going to teach English language to the kids, to anybody you are going to teach. Why? Because it is part of their, in fact, internal structure of their minds. So simply you expose the kids, expose the learner to the language, and the language learner actually it does it automatically without your help. You just provide the environment. Okay, we are going to talk about it later on. Okay, this is the end of page 23. And if you actually go to the next pages, it doesn't have much to say. Page 24 actually it's a kind of thing that is related to, in fact, the general and overall understanding of, in fact, Chomskyan ideas. Well, line 2, page 24 says, language knowledge is part of the speaker's mind. I'm just repeating, okay? I have repeated it several times. Language knowledge is part of the speaker's mind. Hence, the discipline that studies it is part of psychology. So linguistics is part of psychology. The knowledge of language is part of a bigger, in fact, field of study called psychology, and it's part of it. So linguistics is part of psychology. So it means that lisaniyat is part of ilm al-nafs. Okay, so we are doing, in fact, sort of ilm al-nafs, as Chomsky comes to say. So line 4 says, Chomsky has indeed referred to that branch of human psychology, ilm al-nafs, known as linguistics. Okay, this is what we wanted to say on page 24, and there are not other things that there are no. You cannot find other things that are, in fact, important to language teachers, and we have the same kind of thing on page 25, which is about, in fact, evidence from a universal grammar theory. But if actually you go to, in fact, maybe the next page, 26, well, you can find the end of the discussion, and there's nothing so important for you. And after that, we go and finish this chapter with 3 lines on the top of page 27. This is important. Just go to page 27 and have a short look at these ideas. The UG theory, line 1, claims to be a scientific theory based on solid evidence about language. Okay? As such, it is always progressing towards better explanations for language knowledge, as later chapters will demonstrate. This is the conclusion of the chapter, and you don't need to go to the details of, in fact, materials related to page 25 and 26. And you don't need to, in fact, read conclusions on page 26, because it includes things that is, in fact, philosophical, and you need to, in fact, I am actually not going to talk about it, but if you ask it, I will help you. So don't be concerned with pages 25 and 26, okay, because they are not, in fact, relevant to language teachers. But if you actually ask questions, I will answer. Okay, thank you very much.